Hello, Athens. Have you had a great day? Fantastic. Welcome to Great Cool, risk-taking and decision-making in this new age of uncertainty with myself, Caspar Berry. In the next 15 minutes, I want to talk to you about uncertainty. What is it? Where does it come from? What causes it? What are the effects on us all as individuals, as team members, as organizations? What do we tend to do about it? What's been our response for 4,500 years since they erected the Parthenon on the Acropolis? And what do I think we should do about it and could do about it? What did playing poker for 3 years in Las Vegas teach me about that thing called uncertainty and its close cousin risk, and how we can embrace them to achieve our best self? So what is uncertainty? Allow your mind to wander. It's the unknown, it's the unpredictable. I guess about 10 years ago, 2007, we probably thought of the world something like that, right? It was confusing. There were decisions to make. We didn't always know what the right thing to do was. But now, 2017, the world feels more like that, right? Now, when we're trying to figure out what to do, the terrain has changed. Look at what's happened. We've had the financial crisis. We've had the Arab Spring. We've had unpredictable events right here in Greece. We've got unpredictable events right now in England. They've got unpredictable events in America. I'm sure it's going to be fine, right? They know what they're doing. I hope they know what they're doing. But here's the thing, this is not new. Definitive study on global unpredictability was started a long time ago by a guy called Philip Tetlock, 30 years ago. In 1984, he's a young academic at the National Research Council. He's working in the Cold War, and he becomes fascinated by how good or bad we are at predicting the future. So he embarks on a study. He starts asking 284 world experts, and because of his position, they're world experts, for their judgments, their guesses, their assessments as to what the future holds. It's quite a simple structure. I want to share it with you. He gives each of them just 3 potential choices. So he says, for example, is social unrest in Russia, is it going to get better or worse or remain about the same, according to this metric and these parameters? And they have to make their guess and accompany it with a likelihood that measures their degree of confidence in their guess. So they say, it's going to get better. I've studied this for 20 years. I'm 99% sure. Or they might say, I think it's going to be about the same, but I don't know. I'm about 40%. It's a massive study. This is why I'm sharing it with you. In total, he asks 27,450 questions over the course of 20 years. Takes him 5 years to write it up. It is literally his life's work, and because of the sheer size and scale of it, it's regarded as one of the most robust studies in all of social sciences. So what are the results? Well, within the data, there's much variation. Some people definitely better than others, and we will come back to that. But taken as a whole, those 284 world experts, over 27,450 guesses in 20 years, are no better than random. You would have got the same quality of answers from asking a child. So what is this thing called uncertainty? Where does it come from? Well, in defense of those experts, the world is a really complicated place, right? I mean, maybe a better word is complex. The world's a complex place. And to understand complexity, let's go right to the heart of that idea and think about the butterfly effect. Now, we know how the butterfly effect is always explained. They say that a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil can cause a rainstorm in Rome, right? That's how it's explained. But that's not really what it means. What it means, as I'm sure you know, is that tiny things can have big impacts. The tiniest of things can have the biggest impact and effect. In poker, I used to think about that all the time. The tiniest of things, a wink, a blink, can change a hand. That's why everyone's trying to cover up their face. We have the phrase the poker face now. They wear the cap and the shades, and that's legal in most poker rooms. That's going too far, all right, folks? We want to see a nice, fair game. But the point is, the information is limited. We don't know exactly what's going on under those shades or in that soul. But here's where the butterfly effect really takes place in poker. In the center of all of those tables is a randomly shuffled deck of cards. every single one of those cards could completely change the hand. And do you know what the amazing thing is? Every hand in poker, every evening in poker, your results will have more to do with the length of the dealer's nails as they shuffle the cards together than all of your great play. And poker and life are interacting. These butterflies flapping their wings all the time, changing everything. This is honestly true. If the 6 of hearts had fallen on a particular hand of poker in Las Vegas in 2001, I would have won about $350,000. Now, it didn't fall, but I often wonder what would have happened if it had. I have no idea. Maybe I'd have stopped playing there and then. Poker was supposed to be a life break for me. I thought 6 months. I ended up doing it for 3 years. Maybe not. Maybe I'd have carried on playing. Maybe I'd still be doing it now. Here's what wouldn't have happened, right? If that had fallen, I wouldn't have stopped on the exact day that I did 10 months later. I wouldn't have gone back to England. I wouldn't have met this guy, became business partners. We wouldn't have set up this company. We wouldn't have built it up to a team of 40. We sold it to a PLC. I wouldn't have then moved to London and started commentating on poker on TV. I wouldn't have been asked to be poker advisor on the Bond movie Casino Royale. I wouldn't have been asked to speak about that. I wouldn't be a speaker now here today. You'd probably have someone much better. Here's my point. If you think or do anything differently as a result of this, that 6 of hearts changed all of our lives. And that is happening every single moment of every single day to all of us. And that is how a poker player has to think. You're applauding, but it's frustrating though, right? Because if that's happening, then we're not in control of our lives. And that would have an effect on us. If you thought about the world every day like that, which I don't want you to, it takes away something you need. Maslow's pyramid of needs, what does he tell us? Down the bottom there, we need safety, security. It's down there with our basic needs: food, water, warmth, obviously Wi-Fi if he's doing that pyramid today, right? We need to feel in control of our lives. We need to feel a sense of certainty. That's why we don't think of the world as that chaotic most of the time. Look at the society, the world that we've created in those 4,500 years. What do? As soon as we could, we produced laws which, impose a certain amount of control. And I'm glad we did. I want to feel safe as I walk down the street. Capitalism has process and procedure. We have the health and safety world to try and eliminate risk, and thank God we do. Saved hundreds, thousands of lives in the last 100 years. How? When you think about it, by catching butterflies, by putting up signs, stopping people from doing silly things. Everything is banned in this location. I have no idea where it is, leaning against a wall, carrying a violin. This is an actual sign from a Japanese toilet. A lot of the things down the bottom there, I've never tried. I don't know that has tried. We can try and stop people from doing these silly things, but we'll never stop everything, right? We'll never go all the way. We'll never catch every butterfly. You know why? Because the butterfly effect, if you had to visually represent it, doesn't look like that. You can't. But if you had to, it would look more like that. It's 1 million, 1 billion, maybe an infinite number, and that's important, of different agents of chance and change, all interacting with each other in ways that I'm going to go so far as to say we, in our lifetimes, will never be able to fully predict. And that's frustrating. That's why it's really comforting when someone else comes along who seems to be able to do that, right? The early belief systems were based on that promise. We had a hotline, literally, here to the gods. And we still invest hundreds of billions of dollars every single day, week, month, year on the basis of these kind of predictions. This is the Bank of England's actual prediction as to what the UK economy would look like in 2008 from their perspective at the time of 2004. And I think we can all agree there's some margin for error, isn't there? A little bit of wiggle room they've given themselves at the Bank of England. This is a very clever way of going, I don't know. That's basically what they're saying there. Actually, I'm having some fun at the Bank of England's expense. They're doing something very important here. In that fan, that spread, they're actually saying, we can't tell you exactly what the future holds. We're going to make a good guess. But actually, it turns out there's power in that. Because whilst taken as a whole, those experts' predictions no better than random, some people were better than others. And Tetlock was a scientist. he wanted to try and understand that. He wanted to try and correlate their success against something else in his data. Because if he could do that, he would have identified maybe the cause or a correlation of good judgment. Wasn't easy. Didn't correlate against their academic discipline or their age or their experience or their political persuasion, left or right. The single strongest correlation that he could find within the data was between their success and the confidence that they had in their guess. Remember, I'm 99%, I'm dead certain, I'm 40%, I don't really know. And the correlation was negative. That is, the less sure they were, the more likely they were to be right. Which feels counterintuitive at first, but it's not. Reframe. The 99%ers were kind of going, trust me, I'm an expert, it's going to be this. The 40%ers were kind of going, I'm also an expert, studied this 20 years, been wrong in the past. This person an expert, we disagree, really important for me to try and understand where they're coming from. These people were humble, they were open-minded, they always craved new data and information more than anything else. What I would say is these people embraced the reality of uncertainty. They didn't dismiss it as something which happens every now and again. In other words, we can have a choice. We can view the world like this as being, quite uncertain, although there's always a right answer, right? That's what we were trained to look for since the age of 5, a right answer. Or we can accept that there is no right answer. It's not sitting out there waiting to be discovered by an expert. It's always being shaped. That is the reality of uncertainty. The world doesn't look like that now. It's always looked like that. And if you want to come with me on that journey, if we think that that is what the world looks like and that's how we're going to more accurately think about the future, then this person has something to teach us. Not because they're any wiser than us or more intelligent, but because in poker, you wouldn't just be one of those arrogant experts to say, I know what the future holds. You'd be slightly mad. Because the last card's going to come down, the ace of hearts or the 5 of spades, and it's going to totally change the outcome of your decision, your investment decision, your resource allocation decision. So we need a way of just accepting and embracing the reality of uncertainty when we make those decisions. And here's the amazing thing. It never fails to amaze me. We have one. We've had it for 300 years. It literally makes insurance possible, credit possible, valuation of anything under uncertainty possible. It underpins capitalism itself. And yet when I show it to you now, it's always, always, always counterintuitive. Here's what we do. We say, okay, there's $4,000 in the pot. That's the upside, and everything you've ever done in your lives has an upside. Let's imagine we have to put in $400 to call. That's our investment. That's the cost. That's the risk. That's what's at stake. What we're going to do now in an uncertain world is what we all do every day, but subconsciously we're going to make a judgment, an assessment. And in a world of uncertainty, all judgments, all assessments are actually probability assessments. So we say, okay, I think I've got about a 25% chance. I'm not definitely going to win. I'm not definitely going to lose. That allows us to do a calculation, the origin of the phrase, the calculated risk. And it looks like this. If 25% of the time we win $4,000, that means each time on average we win 1,000. We never win 1,000. We either win 4,000 or lose 400. But on average, that's our long-term upside. If 75% of the time we lose 400, then each time on average we lose 75% of 400, which is 300. That means we can now add those two together, our long-term upside minus our long-term downside, to get a value, an average value of this situation. We'll never make $700, but on average, that's what this is worth. It means 3 amazing things. Number 1, it means at a poker game, if we don't make that call, if we fold our cards because we could lose, we're turning down $700. We're literally passing it up. Value. We have to make that call. It's a great call. Number 2, it is great irrespective of whether it succeeds on this occasion or not. That's mind-blowing. Decision-making science tells us that a decision is good or bad irrespective of this outcome. We don't live our lives like that at all. And number 3, if we divide it by our investment, we get a return on our investment of 175%. In business, we'd kill for that kind of return. In poker, we don't have to kill, we just have to be prepared to fail. That's what happens in an uncertain world. You fail more. But it's fine. Don't worry, because we think long term. This is Doyle Brunson, probably the greatest poker player of all time. He's now worth tens of millions of dollars. But in order to get there, he had to be prepared to fail. And a hand, and an evening, in a week, even in a month. To make those millions, he's had to lose more money than most of us will see during the course of a lifetime. But he's still smiling. And that's why. No, that's not why. Why? Is because he's got millions. The losses were short term. It's all about the end, the destination. Do you know Babe Ruth? He had the all-time record for the most number of home runs hit. Do you know he also had the all-time record for the most number of strikeouts? For complete misses of the ball. That means by two different metrics, he's both the best and the worst player of all time. I put it to you, that's not a coincidence. That sometimes if you want to be the best over here, you have to accept a negative metric. How can you do this? Don't turn your business model on your head. You don't have to set up a whole new company. Here's an amazing thing. Warren Bennis, professor of leadership at Harvard University, did a study of the great super leaders, the Bill Gates, the Bill Clintons. He found out that those people, they got let down, lied to, and screwed over more often than most of us. Why is that? Surely these were the people that others wanted to follow. Well, maybe, if you trust 100 people, maybe 20 of them will let you down. But maybe you get more from the other 80 than if you don't trust any of them at all. Maybe we should be taking more risks like that in our lives. We can immunize ourselves to this pain if we want to, but we won't get all the benefit of this. Surely the stories that we tell about the great leaders in the world, surely they are the stories of the times that they failed. And we don't tell those just because they make good stories or because they're more incompetent. We tell them because you bite off more than anybody else, and you do fail more often. This guy failed in business in 1831, defeated for legislature, 1832, second business failure, 1833, nervous breakdown, 1836, confined to bed for 6 months, but he gets up, and he's defeated for speaker in 1838, defeated for Congress, 1848, defeated for Senate, 1855. Give it up now, Abe. Maybe it's not for you. No. Defeated for vice president, 1856, defeated for Senate again, 1858, before finally being elected president in 1860, and that is what we remember him for, the long-term achievement. Thank you. He was assassinated in 1865, all right, folks? Which does show risk-taking is dangerous. Be careful. Thank you.